Thank you, Mr. Acting President. I'd like to firstly thank Mr. Davis and the opposition for bringing this motion before the chamber. I'd also like to, at the outset, acknowledge the more than 500,000 Victorians who were affected by the power outages, and also the amazing first responders who stepped up, as always, to support their communities. And I'm sure everyone in this place has a similar high regard for the work that those people undertake for little or no pay and under the most difficult and challenging circumstances. Mr. Davis, in his motion, has raised some important issues with regard to the rights of Victorians to have confidence that they have a secure, a reliable electricity system. I don't think anyone in this place either would deny that that's a critical consideration. It's a part of our lives. We take it for granted. And when incidents like this occur, it shakes us all, doesn't it? Because suddenly it's not there. So if there is this event that has occurred, there is a major question as to why and how the system failed and affected adversely so many Victorians. There is also a second question of at least or greater importance, and that is, how is this to be avoided in the future? Mr. Davis's motion has, and excuse me for paraphrasing here, Mr. Davis, broadly 4 elements. How reliable is the system? What happened on the 13th of February? The cost of developing a more sustainable electricity system, and the role of new technologies and evolving power generations and maintenance systems into the future. And the proposal is that this inquiry that's being put forward by the opposition would occur over the period to June 2025, about 16 months away. Now, these are all important questions. There's no two ways about it. But the issue that we on the crossbench have been considering is how are these, and also important broader questions, at best addressed, and addressed in a timely manner. Now, I would like to personally express my appreciation to Mr. Davis and also to Ms. Crozier for the very courteous and the professional discussion that we had in considering this very question. So the question we ask ourselves then as crossbenchers is this actually the best way to deal with the issues facing the Victorian community? And juxtaposed to those conversations, we have also had discussions with the government. And I would also like to express our appreciation to Minister D'Ambrosio and her staff for their likewise courteous and professional approach to addressing these issues. Arising from those discussions with the government, we effectively have a two-staged approach. And this has been canvassed by Mr. Galea and Ms. Watts. Firstly, there is an independent expert inquiry with agreed terms of reference and agreed membership as to what actually happened and why. Because I think that's a really big question that every Victorian would like answered, and they'd like it answered not by people like us. You know, they want it answered by people who know what it means, who are steeped in the industry, who understand the engineering, who understand the realities of the generation system and the distribution system. And in our discussions with the Minister, there's a recognition that this report will take quite a long time to do. It will take at least 12 months, I believe. But, and I think this is really important, the government has committed to the production of an interim report that addresses those most urgent questions within 6 months. And that 6 months is very important for those of us who are committed to another process that is underway. And that is, as Ms Mansfield alluded to, the inquiry into climate change resilience and adaptation. All Victorians, I think, know the climate's changing, yeah? We are beyond the point where we ask, is it going to happen? The question is, how much of it's going to happen and what's it going to mean and how are we going to respond to it? Mr Galea referred to the events that happened at places like Anarchy, and I'm sure anyone who saw those 6 high-tension towers that were snapped as though by an act of God were the product of a freak meteorological event. And it is a freak event, but it's also a freak event that's going to become more and more common. We're also going to have a whole lot of other things we've got to deal with, like increasing temperatures, increasingly unreliable precipitation, higher temperatures, rising flood levels. And so if, as a state, we are to respond strategically and responsibly to those changes, then we also need to have an inquiry that doesn't simply focus on the events and the outworkings, and specifically the power industry, because the power industry is one subset industry within a broader context that all Victorians want to know about. How are we going to adapt to climate change? How are we going to make our state more resilient? How do we keep the lights on? How do we feed our community? These are big issues, and it requires a broad perspective for that to be addressed. And in that sense, the inquiry into resilience and adaptation that will be commencing in a few months' time, in the middle of the year, will be informed by other works. The first one I've already alluded to, which is the independent expert panel looking at the causes and the response to the power outages. The second one is that the Council Environment and Planning Committee has spent a long time looking at the response and the causes of the 2022 flood event, which has affected Victorians across the state. And that committee has heard really heart-rending stories of disadvantage arising from those floods. And we need to, as a parliament, we need to, as a community, be thinking through these big issues. And so the inquiry that will kick off in June into resilience and adaptation will be informed by the technical analysis of the power industry, and it will also be informed by the findings of the flood inquiry, and it will hope to engage a broad cross-section of the community to consider these issues. And Acting President, I guess the other thing that's really critical is that it will do it in roughly the same time frame as the proposal from the opposition. And we would like a more comprehensive and a bigger picture that meets the needs of all Victorians as our focus. So in that context, and after a lot of discussion and careful deliberation, the Legalise Cannabis Victoria will not be supporting the opposition's motion. Thank you.